And it's Friday, so the BBE is now live.
Nottingham Ale, boys, Nottingham Ale, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Ale. Nottingham Ale, boys, Nottingham Ale, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Ale. Nottingham Ale, boys, Nottingham Ale, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Ale. Nottingham Ale, boys, Nottingham Ale, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Ale.
And welcome. We know it's Friday because the BBE is live. My name is Thomas Allen, and I'm coming to you live from Chicago, one of the directors of the BBE and our resident singer on the show, and, well, just generally. So, nice to have you with us.
I'm Leanne Dale Ragusa, the resident flute player. I'm streaming to you live from Bloomington, Indiana, and I'm one of the other directors of the BBE.
And I am Brandy Berry Benson, yet another one of the directors of the BBE, violinist, fiddler, and I am super thrilled that we have another fiddler joining us, the executive director of the Irish Music School of Chicago. And Seán Cleland, thank you for joining us. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to see you guys in a different context, and I missed our yearly visit, so this is cool that we get to do this. Thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. And for all of you viewers out there, we used to meet up very serendipitously every year on Chicago Irish Radio around this time of year. So that is the yearly visit that he is referring to.
Yep. Yeah, it's cool.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, guess what? It is, since it's Friday, it's BBE Live. We're going to run Seán and everybody out there through our 3 games that we do every Friday, and that always kicks off with Leanne.
All right, so the first game, The Sordid Lives of Composers. So how it works is I'll read a paragraph about a composer. I may or may not leave out pertinent information that will give you the answer, but there will be 4 multiple choice composers on the screen for you to choose from. But after I read, there will be a little thinking music for you to contemplate what the answer is. So with that, let's get started with question number 1. All right, so this Italian flutist, oboist, and composer went to London in 1714 with Gimignani, where he played the flute and oboe in the opera orchestra at the Haymarket, where Handel's operas were being produced. He later moved to Edinburgh, where he obtained the post of master at the Edinburgh Musical Society. He married a Scottish woman and published 10 concerti grossi and 9 overtures. Today, he is primarily known for his set of 6 solo sonatas for alto recorder, which were rediscovered in 1940. He also wrote 6 sonatas for 2 violins, 6 sonatas for flute, and 6 antiphons. He is also really well known among practitioners of traditional folk music for his collection of 28 Scotch airs in his A Collection of Old Scots Tunes. In this collection, he added a proper and natural bass to each tune. Was this composer Francesco Barsanti, Lorenzo Boschi, Giovanni Bassano, or Giovanni Bononcini? But first, a little thinking music.
And Seán, don't feel bad if you don't know any of these people, because I probably don't either. So it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't. So do I guess first?
If you want, yeah.
Sure. I'm going to go with C, Giovanni Bassano.
Do you have a reason for that? I would like to. Okay, very good. All right.
Good answer. Just go for it.
Yeah.
I make Brandy go next because she might have a better idea.
Yeah.
Being a violinist.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm like, well, it's for sure not. I mean, so Seán, you could change your answer. I'm pretty sure it's not C or D.
Okay.
But then Leanne's shaking her head. Uh-oh. So maybe it is C.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
it could be A or C. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, the 2 names that I recognize are Barsanti and Bocci, or Bocchi. Yeah. Say his name. But Lorenzo is a cellist, and I'm like thinking to myself, who was the Bocchi? Thank you. I'm from Texas, so I can't pronounce anything.
We're good.
Yeah. But I'm like, who would be an oboe player? Recorder player.
Ooh.
So
Maybe
I'm gonna go with D.
yeah, I feel like now Leanne has totally thrown me off. I was so sure it was A, and I'm like, now I'm thinking it might be C. You know, because that's the only name that I can kind of associate with oboe. Yeah.
So are you going? What's your answer, Brandy?
Yeah, final answer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm gonna just go with A because that's what I was thinking before. But
Well, Sean, you are correct. It's C.
Ah,
Biscotto.
yes.
Good job. Good job. I wouldn't have got that answer right. You got it. You're great.
excellent.
That's so funny.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Good work, Sean.
Bring
See,
it
this
out.
is how
Good
this game really works, so don't worry about it.
It's all right. All right. So, question number 2. This Scottish composer, arranger, cellist, and music publisher worked first as a dancing master in Dunfermline, but then moved to Edinburgh, where he was able to develop a successful career as a composer, publisher, arranger, cellist, and of course, teacher, teaching the local aristocracy their musical ABCs. In 1741, he uprooted his family, his wife, and 4 daughters, and moved to London to the home of music publishing, where he later was appointed as chamber composer for King George III. He is most known for his publications of Scottish folk tunes. He wrote variations of popular Scottish folk tunes, arranged folk tunes for fiddle, and composed original tunes in the same genre. He had a talent for assimilating English, Italian, French, and of course, Scottish styles in his music, particularly in his sets of airs. So, was this composer William McGibbon, Robbie Burns, George Thompson, or James Oswald? But first, some thinking music.
Robbie Burns. Sean, do you have? I have an idea who the 2 people it probably is.
Yeah, I would say it's A or D.
Yep.
Not sure why. At first I was going to say A, and then I thought D. I'm trying to put this all in, and I'm also trying to read the last names and try to think how this would work. This like assimilation and sort of hanging out with the rich people, like who would be granted that sort of access, sort of stuff. So I'm going to say A or D.
McGibbon was a violin or a fiddle player, violinist, wasn't he?
Do
you know?
I actually don't know. If
Because I thought I remembered Tim talk about McGibbon fairly frequently.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I'm pretty. So I think the answer to Leanne's question is D, James Oswald.
Yeah, I think
I'm
so too.
Very, very confident that's the one. But yeah, McGibbon is certainly one of the other selections that's like of reels and whatever. I mean, I guess he was a fiddle player, or he was either a flute or recorder player. So
I'm pretty sure McGibbon's a fiddle player because I think I remember even Tim showing us a portrait of him playing a fiddle. And since one of the cues was he was a cello or a bass, I forget which one, I would go with
Cello.
James Oswald for that. Yeah, so I'd go with D.
yeah.
So are we going?
Yeah, James Oswald for sure. He didn't just play cello. I feel like you left some instruments out, maybe, or like.
I mean, there's a long list. I couldn't list everything.
Okay.
But she didn't say fiddle, and I'm pretty sure that's McGibbon's thing, was he was a fiddle player.
Yeah. Well, it's for sure because Oswald left Edinburgh. 1741 sounds right because Alan Ramsay was really disappointed when Oswald left and wrote like an epistle as if like things had totally died there in Edinburgh without Oswald. So yeah.
So
Yeah.
Collectively, we're all going with James Oswald.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sean, you
All
okay?
right.
Good.
Well, you're correct. You
Yeah.
are correct. Good job.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I just
All
think
right.
it's funny, like you go through music, you go through school like to do this, and like people get all upset that you don't know enough about Strauss or Wagner or something.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help me in these situations, you know.
Not at all. Nope.
I still don't know
Nope.
enough about Strauss or Wagner. Someone would have to be like,
All right. Yeah.
I don't know.
I like this person's nose personally.
Yes.
Wow.
That is quite. It makes you
That was a
wonder, like,
bridge.
was it really, truly, actually shaped like that, or was the painter just indulging a little bit?
But that's what I was wondering. So, this witty English writer and composer was an important innovator and contributor in the evolution of the ballad opera. Over the course of his lifetime, he entertained 5 monarchs and wrote over 32 plays and 500 songs. When he wasn't writing jokes, he spent his time writing plays, songs, and poetry. His songs generally fell into 3 categories: court songs, political songs, and country songs, which tended to be more than a little bawdy. He is credited with the earliest recorded song that is similar to the present day Old MacDonald Had a Farm. And actually, Thomas has sung this song. And the name of the song is In the Fields of Frost and Snow. This piece was written for the opera The Kingdom of the Birds and was published in 1720 in Wit and Mirth, or Pills to Purge Melancholy. So, was this composer Thomas Percy, Thomas Durfee, William Erskine, or Thomas Shadwell? But first, some thinking music. Any guesses?
right.
Have you heard of these composers?
I'm not sure. How do you guess this?
I mean, I feel like
They're all named Thomas except one. So I think no. I mean, I was going to say my initial gut reaction was Thomas Percy or William Erskine, one of those two. I don't know why.
yeah.
I don't have any real reason. I mean, there are lots of French names in there, but they sort of start changing by about the time this is happening in England. Like, and it's sort of they change over to more these names like Percy and Erskine. So no idea.
I feel so
Thomas,
bad. I should
Brandy?
know that. I was like, I should know this one.
I mean,
I
yeah, I'm feeling B for some reason because that title, Pills of whatever, Melancholy and all that stuff, I feel like I've looked in this collection before. So I'm feeling B for BBE, but
I don't know C or D at all. I don't think, unless the answer is this, and then I will feel completely embarrassed. I was going with A or B. I'm going to go with B as well, just because I feel like I haven't seen that name very often, but I feel like maybe it was attached to the music itself. I'm trying to go back to my memory.
It's been a while since we've done it, but
yeah.
All right. Well,
And I keep thinking Percy Granger, which is not the right person, so that's why I maybe feel like A. But I'm
Correct.
going to go with B as
completely different.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, the answer is B, Thomas Durfee. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And he had a great
Cool.
nose.
He had a great nose and a wonderful song about, well, it wasn't Old MacDonald's farm, but in the fields of frost and snow.
Brewing there
Yes.
and brewing here, and probably one of the only times you'll hear Thomas making peacock sounds. So
In public.
Or rhinoceros.
public, yeah, or the
Yeah.
rhinoceros.
That was pretty epic.
All right.
So-
Well, good job.
So that's you singing this song or singing Old MacDonald?
Really
singing this
anything I
song.
sing.
No, the peacocks and the rhinos. This song, this guy. Okay.
It was for this song.
All right.
That's
Really
right.
any song. Yeah.
We had some audience participation. We were like, "Hey, choose an animal." So the audience decided to get pretty creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and actually, peacocks for real sound like dying cats. I mean, when they
Something like that. Yeah.
like, it's really terrifying a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, reliving that memory was fun. We'll move on. All right. Good job, Sean. That we survived that one. And the game that I usually host and I will be hosting today is Thomas's Revenge and Cat Doppelgangers, because usually I don't do so hot on those. Although today I didn't do half bad, so that's pretty good. So normally in Thomas's Revenge we listen to primarily vocal stuff, but sometimes I mix it up. When we go to the next screen, you will see 3, maybe 4 choices of composers or something related to a question I will ask. We will then listen to about a minute of music just to kind of get acquainted with it, and then we'll take our best stab at either who or what it is, depending on the question. At which point I will reveal the answer, some cool pictures that go along with whatever the question was, and as the name of the game suggests, Cat Doppelgangers, a picture of a cat will appear, either loosely related to what we are discussing or just something that I felt at the time. So with that, here are your first 4 possible choices. And the question is, when you listen to this song that's coming up, which is a symphonic arrangement of a tune that most in here will probably recognize, on the screen are 4 possible names that it could also be called by. One of them is not an alternate name for this tune. So you're looking for the alternate name that is not correct. And here is the symphonic arrangement of this tune. All right, and 2 things. I just realized I put Dives and Lazarus on that twice. Whoops. Oh, well. Not giving anything away there, though, so you just have 3 choices. And number 2, if for folks out there, this is not giving it away. If you've ever been to a Catholic service, you probably know it as the song tune I Heard the Voice of Jesus Say. And if you are playing in the Irish community, you'll also know it as The Girl of the County Down. That is the song.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the other related title.
These are, ignore one of the Dives for Lazarus's, right? 3 titles. One of them is not an alternate title.
Okay.
One of them is not an alternate title for this song.
I think I know what it is.
Go for it.
So what Dives in Lazarus, I don't think is the alternate title for this.
Do you know the other? Do you know? Have you ever played it under any of these other tune names? Just out of curiosity.
I think it is the Castle of Dromore. I think so, or then Quiet Grove. It's something like that. It's one of those 2, is what it actually is. I think.
Yeah, it has a lot of names. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Amber, any thought?
I'll go with A or D.
You're okay with A? Okay, great.
How about you go with
50-50.
A and I'll go with D?
Yeah. And then I'll go with A and D just to cover the bases.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's so funny. Sorry for that one. Well, okay, sometimes it doesn't get perfect. Well, actually, Dives and Lazarus is one of the alternate names for this one. It is based on biblical. Yeah, I was going to actually put one of my favorite recordings of that version of it on here. It, in fact, is the Castle of Dromore. And this was by Ralph Vaughan Williams, played by the London Philharmonic Orchestra. So this
Oh,
is a
wow.
picture of the castle. This is a picture of the castle of which the tune is not named after, and this is the town in which it's located as well. So yep. So that's sorry for that one, but
Oh, wow.
here's your princely cat who lives in said castle. Excellent. All right. Well, with that one, we will actually listen to a version of the County Down played by one of these three bands. So I'm wondering if anybody in here happens to know which band it is. And here we go.
From Bantry Bay up to Derrick Kay, and we'll be trouble in town. Though me I see like a brown collie, but I'm mad at the county down.
All right. Yeah, this is my favorite version of the song at all because they go into the end, which is amazing.
What does 3Js mean? 3JS. What is that? Is that a name of a band?
It's the name of the band, yeah. And the reason why is because the three main people in it are all, their names begin with J. So like James, for instance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's actually 3J apostrophe S is how it should be read, but it's 3JS.
I think it's the High Kings. Pretty sure. I don't know what the Jays is, though. I know it's not the Chieftains.
Okay. So we've eliminated Chieftains.
Something like that. But it's just through a whole complex thing of that. I think it's the High Kings and but it could be 3Js. I don't know who they are. Yeah.
Leah and Brandy, any thoughts?
I mean, the Chieftains were the only name that I really recognize. Well, kind of the High Kings too. You know, I recognize them, but yeah, I was. I'll go with B.
Go with B, Leanne.
I think I'll go with B. I only know the Chieftains, and it doesn't sound like them.
Yeah.
So I'll just go with the High Kings.
Excellent. Well, I win because it was 3JS. And this was, but that's fine. I think this might have been particularly hard, especially if you didn't know 3JS.
Yeah.
So anyway, this was a live show. They don't actually do Irish music super duper often. It doesn't seem based off of their albums. So, yeah. And over here we have the maid of the County Down, who actually was from County Down. She was Miss Northern Ireland in 2019. However, she's supposed to have brown hair, so we'll just give her that. And then the winner of the World Cat Competition was, I don't know how to pink, Paul Cassiopeia from 2020. So, awesome. So that also could be the maid from the County Down. So,
that's
all right. Well, I took my revenge, and I'm super excited by that. And we move on to Brandy's.
All right. In this one, I will give you a batch of 3 statements about Irish things, and it is your job to pick which one is the lie. Okay. So I'm going to read off a series of statements, and we'll start with the first 3. So statement number 1 is, let me see here. Oh, you're doing it up. Okay, great. The first St. Patrick's Day Festival was held in 1601 in present-day St. Augustine, Florida. The Irish harp is one of the oldest Irish instruments. However, it quickly fell out of... Actually, let me just read a slight little correction to this. It temporarily lost popularity when Queen Elizabeth I issued a decree to hang all harpists and burn their instruments in 1571. Because as we know, the harp was also popular again, you know, but so temporarily fell out of vogue or lost popularity there in statement 2. And then the third statement, the Belfast Harp Festival was a 3-day competition among Irish traditional harpists, of which the eldest competitor had just turned 100 years old. Which statement is the lie? And now for a little thinking music.
Oh, it's that, I think the first one's the lie.
1601 seems particularly early for a St. Patrick's Day parade, St.
And
Patrick's Day
plus,
festival.
that was
Florida.
Spanish, the Spanish colony also.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going with you on that one, Sean.
The other two
Yeah.
are actually true. For sure, the last one is true because that's an important thing on that harp festival because that's where they notate earnestly and they learn of this guy named Turlock O'Carolan at this thing, among other things that they discovered at this 1798 or something. Is that harp festival?
1792.
92.
Yeah.
I'd say number one.
No. Number two surprises me, and it doesn't surprise me at the same time. I given all the issues with England and Ireland, England and everybody basically, but like, I'm still like, wow, that's pretty awful.
By the 1700s, all the harpists were all stopped, and it's because of that harp festival that anybody knows anything about it, and that they had some harps in museums and rich people houses and things, but nobody played the harp until it was sort of resurrected in the 20th century, and then now it's a high level again. But they had to kind of recreate it. Yeah.
Wow. All right, so I guess we're all for one.
All right. Well, I've stumped all of you because, in fact, yeah, it was a Spanish colony, but it was, in fact, where the first St. Patrick's Day festival.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah. And the second one was true. It, as you pointed out, Sean. And then the third one, the one that was false about that, was the fact that the eldest competitor was 96 years old, had not turned 100. Little tricky. Very tricksy. All right, let's move on to the second.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
All
Sean, we forgot to mention she changes like one thing.
One word.
Sometimes. Yes. All right. So here's the next batch of statements here. Edward Bunting, so he was the one that was transcribing all these tunes at that Belfast Harp Festival, was commissioned to record the tunes played by all the harpists at the Belfast Harp Festival. The tune called St. Patrick's Day appears in both James Oswald's Caledonian Pocket Companion and the collection known as the Hibernian Muse. And then finally, the origin of the tune St. Patrick's Day comes from the Zulu tribe in South Africa who brought the tune to Ireland during the Boer War. Which statement is false? And now for a little thinking music.
I mean, I'm very frustrated. I feel like number two is correct, could be correct, but it could not, because maybe it just appeared in one of them. Because I'm pretty sure I remember it came from at least one of them. But the tune from the Zulu tribe in South Africa.
In which St. Patrick's Day tune? Like there's probably more than one.
The tune called St. Patrick's Day. So I guess there's different versions of it out there, but because there's the versions that I know, some have an additional 2 measures, some don't, some have it in a different key. So.
I'm gonna go for 2 just because I wonder if Brandy's trying to trick us because it was only one.
Exactly. There's something about this that there's more here than meets the eye.
And I feel the Zulu tribe is just thrown in there as a true fact to throw us off.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody going with number 2?
Yes.
All right. Well, you've been stumped again. It was actually the third statement. And because that actually didn't happen. They didn't bring it up from South Africa.
Oh my God.
The Boer War, I think, was sometime in the 20th century. I don't know. So
It was the turn of the 20th century before, yeah. Wow, you're like, this is like game theory or something that you're doing.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Sort of advanced thing where,
yes.
yeah, it didn't make sense to me, but I thought, okay.
That's why I thought it was
so
right.
out there.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I am married to a history teacher, so it's like, here's where it could kind of sound true. No, I'm just kidding. All right, and now for the last batch of statements here surrounding the actual patron saint, St. Patrick. So, the real St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, was actually from Britain. Second statement, St. Patrick first learned about the Holy Trinity from an Irish raider who used a nearby three-leaf clover to help illustrate that theological concept. And then the final statement, one miracle St. Patrick performed was banishing the snakes from Ireland and causing them to slither into the sea. So, which one is the false statement? And then I should also clarify on the third one, the miracle that was documented that St. Patrick had performed for that third one. All right, and now for a little thinking music.
Can you restate that third?
Oh
point?
yeah,
You
sure.
said-
So one of the miracles that St. Patrick is known for performing was banishing the snakes from Ireland, causing them to slither into the sea.
But what was the documented thing?
Well, just that
about?
he was known for, like, that was one of the things that supposedly qualified him as a saint. Because you have to, have performed in order to be a saint. You have to have performed one or two miracles at least, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not all up and up on the canonization of all of that, but
No, that's true. But I'm wondering, does that mean the question is St. Patrick became a saint because he was documented doing this thing, and then that was one of the two documented? Is it more about the fact that he was?
it's more about, is this the miracle that he's associated with?
Okay, gotcha.
Well, it is the miracle that they always refer to, but I don't think it's actually true. And he certainly didn't do it. I think number 3 is the wrong one. Even though it's always tied up, they always say that that's what he did. But it's something about the language of this is tricky, isn't it? That you're tricking us somehow.
She would never do that.
Well, actually, from Britain. Like, I think he was actually from Wales, but it could be like, like Britain, part of in the middle.
The one, that's the one. I think number 1 maybe, because I don't know that he's from Britain.
And then there is a connection between the Holy Trinity and the shamrock, which is a 3-leaf clover. And that's why it always has 3. And you can always tell people, like, if they have 4, then they don't know what they're talking about. But still, one miracle performed was banishing, like, nobody actually. I don't know. That's
yeah.
I don't know.
But he is credited with doing that. I mean, whether that's true or not,
he is.
he's
And
still
every
credited
song
with
about
it.
him, right? And it's metaphorical for driving evil out and uniting people in their Christendom, basically. That's what that is really about. But they'll say
I actually think it's number 1 because I don't actually remember where he's from, but I don't remember. I'm not sure that it's Britain. So, but the others look sound to me. Although I'm not sure if Irish Raider is supposed to be like a throw off or something, but that's technically true.
Yeah.
And then number 3, my only question about that is the slither into the sea. I don't know if that was true.
I think it's number 2. I think she's tricked us with this number 2 thing. Like, a lot of number 2 is correct. But I don't think he learns. Yeah, he's a slave. And then he converts while a slave. And then he goes back. It might have been like I don't know. Something about number 2. All right.
All right. Final answers,
1.
everybody?
2.
1.
I'm going to go with, I really have no idea. I'm going to go with 2 because I feel like there could be something in there that Brandy would switch.
All right. Excellent. And you guys are in fact right. Number 2 is the one.
Really?
Yeah, because and Sean, you were hitting on it actually, since he was a slave and then later escaped and came back as a missionary to Ireland. He was the one that used the shamrock as
Oh.
showing, the Holy Trinity. And I should have worded number 3 better. It wasn't about whether the miracle actually was true, because I was reading up on this. I found it really fascinating that from the fossil record and some of the science that they've been talking about is that wouldn't have been able to happen, as far as banishing the snakes, and of course them slithering into the sea is not. But the fact that that is a miracle he was credited for, that was the thing. And then from what I read, I don't know if like Britain was just the term of like, that was applied to all the lands that like, or, if Wales was considered part of Britain. From what I was reading, they were saying he was actually from Britain and not Ireland. So yeah. But anyway, I thought it was
this. I've been doing this recently. I read this entire sentence. St. Patrick first
learned.
I interpreted it as being taught other people, or I interpreted the Irish Raider learned from. I've been doing this more and more recently, so I would have, if I had actually read it correctly, I would have gotten that one. Yeah. But I got it wrong, so it's fine.
Excellent. All right, cool. Well, good job, you guys. You got number 2. Excellent. Woohoo! Yeah, Sean, you did better than all of us.
Not really. I got the 3 J's. I had no idea about that one. I knew it was and the Rafe Von Williams one. I didn't get that one either. So I don't know.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's the purpose of mine, is to trip everybody up completely.
Yeah, like if I had been asked those questions, the questions that I made up, I'm like, I don't know. I wouldn't have gotten every single one of my own questions right. That's for sure.
And are there a lot of people watching this right now? And
not really sure. I see people kind of coming on and off periodically.
Oh, cool.
So I think most people watch it after the fact, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
So.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's.
So I have so Sean. So we know you teach a lot.
Yeah.
Especially through the Irish Music School. We know you play a lot, or at least before the pandemic, we know that. What have you been up to? Like, what's your day or your week kind of look like normally at this point?
Well, I went from being in charge of a music school and not doing too much teaching to doing most of the teaching in the school, which was good for me in a lot of ways, as you can imagine, and kind of made my teaching better over the last year, I would say. But also because I'm not running around doing these weird gigs and playing in bars and going out of town to do things and always hustling, it meant I had more time to chill out and think about stuff and practice and think about my own playing. So it's been quite an interesting year, really. Luckily my wife has got a fantastic job, which allowed her to work from home and allowed us to have health insurance and, all that kind of stuff that if I was in a gig economy, which I sort of was, I would have been more compromised, but it was not bad, kind of, and it sort of changed my perspective about teaching via technology, teaching via screens, the insistence on people having to be in the same room. I don't have any of that stuff now. And also I've been intrigued by all the creativity that all my friends and contemporaries that do things like this or Zoom things or podcasts or combination things where you're playing on Zoom, but you're also streaming it to Facebook Live and to YouTube. And, so it's a kind of exciting time really to be an entrepreneur and a musician and a hustler. It's kind of, I really kind of have liked those parts of it. Obviously I don't like the rest of it, the dying and the masks all the time and all that stuff, but I think we're almost through it. So,
Yeah, totally.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like kicking off, because we were talking about this a little bit beforehand that, shutdown happened literally the night before St. Patrick's Day last year. And so like, how did that, so obviously it was a very different St. Patrick's Day last year as opposed to this year too. What were some of you were talking about even some of the, the gigs that you had this year, coming back around, that actually you ended up enjoying a little bit more. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Well, one of the things that, as you guys know, around holidays and stuff, you get to like play at nursing homes or retirement homes or communities of older people. And sort of pre-lockdown, there's so many of these communities, and they actually require a fair amount of entertainment. And of course, all this stuff shut down. But this year, they're one of the first ones to kind of come back a little bit, in that a lot of the residents have gotten 2 vaccines now, at least in Chicagoland. This is true. And so they have these things there, and everyone's sort of used to still masks and socially distanced and stuff. And they've some of the places have bridged this thing now where they're vaccinated. The people are used to wearing masks, and they've got people used to like little pods, little groups separating. And so we've done in the past week, in sort of pre-St. Patrick's Day through St. Patrick's Day, probably 7 or 8 of these things, and they've been fun. It's fun to play in front of actual people. I don't mind doing all the Zoom playing and stuff, but the playing live it's just a little bit better, obviously. And of course, the worst thing about the whole Zoom world is the latency, that we can't play and hear each other. So we can play, I can play, and you can all watch me and hear me, and then I mute myself, and then you can play or sing, and then we can all hear you and play along with you, which is kind of okay for teaching, maybe not as great for anything else. So, and if they ever get the latency thing down, where they can, and there are all kinds of like hacks and things, but none of them work that great unless you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars to set up your own servers and things. It ultimately is not as much fun as actually playing in front of people. And, we wear masks when we play, and we don't whine because we're happy to be there. And last year we didn't play in front of anybody. So yeah, it's great. Yeah. But I haven't missed playing in the bars. I've missed going to bars, but I haven't missed that kind of thing, because that's the other extra special thing. Those of you out there watching this, is that when you're an Irish musician around St. Patrick's Day, or anybody, if you know a few tunes, you end up cramming into these bars and pushing your way through crowds and playing stuff that's never quite right for what people actually want, which is just to hop up and down and scream suggestions at you. And so I haven't missed any of that, to be honest.
What is your favorite sort of like venue to play in? Because there's and actually I have another question too. Like, what are a lot of your typical venues, and that's sort of what's your favorite and why?
Well, I a lot of my career has been leading sessions in Irish pubs. So I would do that 2 to 3 nights a week, or an afternoon, a weekend afternoon probably, and then a couple nights where I'm sitting there in the midst of other people who show up, but I'm paid typically, and I'm kind of running things and trying to be like a kind of provide background music for the patrons of the bar. So sometimes there's some amplification, sometimes there isn't. And then I'm also guiding people at various stages, and we're all playing together. So, and I like that. I would love to do that once or twice a week again, but I don't completely miss that. A lot of my gigs have been where people aren't really listening, and I would like to transition that to, which is okay, because I take it the sort of journeyman quality of that. I don't mind that so much. And, we're sort of, it's a lot of times the Irish music stuff is sort of modular. And so it's sort of ad hoc, like, oh, look, hey, Thomas, I haven't seen you since last year. All right, here's what we're going to do. And then we just do it, I wouldn't mind some things where people are really listening. Like occasionally you'll play at the Old Town School folk music, or you play a concert series where people are kind of hanging on your words and listening to the pretty things and following if you're doing some sort of flights of fancy when you're moving and playing off each other, and they're kind of following that. And then like that is ultimately more satisfying. But I haven't done as much of that as I would kind of like to do now. I have friends like Martin Hayes or people like that who those are the only gigs they ever do. People hanging on every note they do. They don't play wedding cocktail hours and things, which I like doing as well. They're playing things where they sound check for 2 hours, and then people hang on every note they play. And I think I'm ready for that now. More of that.
That's funny. We always have the opposite problem, right? Like we're always usually places where it's like you're like, are you alive? Like, are you out there?
Right.
Like, because there's no response. Like, there's no
Right.
response to like anything. And like, if you cough or you clap inappropriately, like everybody around you like gets angry.
Yeah. I was in a traditional Irish band that went on a tour of Australia about 12 or 15 years ago. So we were in Australia for like 4 weeks. I mean, it's such a big journey that once you're there, you're kind of in for the season, you know? And we did these things where we would go between these sort of Irish diaspora centers that were sort of like what we're really used to. Lots of fun and, you know, hijinks and clapping and whooping. And then we'd play these sort of Englishy folk clubs where nobody clapped, nobody smiled. And at the end, they would just kind of do this like polite, weird thing. And it was so disconcerting and so kind of like ultimately unsatisfying most of the gigs, because you're like, what the heck? You know, like that was good, right? Or that was funny. That was funny. I know that we're both speaking weird versions of English to each other, but really? You didn't think it was funny? And everybody's just sitting there stony faced. And you're like, do they not like it? Like, what is going on? Like, and we're trying to get people, look, we're going to play this tune another time. Like, whoa, you know, and like, yeah, it sucked. So, yeah. So I don't envy you, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Well, and what's funny is like some people are like actually enjoying it, and it's like, you know, if only they'd informed their face a little bit more to let us know that, right? Oh, that just added so much, you know, or you like if the whole audience is like super quiet afterwards, they come up to you, man, that just added so much. That was so great. It's like, oh, good.
I know. Yeah. It's like a lot of what you do is really kind of dance music or post-dance music, but people don't think of it that way. They're thinking of it by some sort of anachronistic rule, so that this is how you comport yourself when you're listening to serious music.
Yeah, that's right. I remember reading in it's called I think it's called romantic pianism or romantic piano classism or something like that, but where it was talking about how, you know, Franz Liszt, when he did his salon concerts, if people weren't making noise, it was a definite like they must not have liked it. You know, like the culture back then for like classical concerts, you know, especially in his, you know, with his concerts, where that people were yelling and hooting and hollering and whatever, and you know, and I'm like, yeah, man, well, that's the way it should be. Where did we get this kind of weird notion that you had to be silent? You know, yeah.
How do your students do that? Like when you're teaching them, or when like they jump into like a session, or like do they kind of learn those sort of rituals, so to speak, like in sort of like the encouragement and this other way of operating in that space?
I think I would spend a fair amount of time quite periodically describing what is the appropriate behavior and trying to train people, because it's a very good point. Like I'm trying to teach people a lot of things, and I'm doing most of it by ear also. So I'm trying to teach norms and ways of learning traditional music that in the past you would have just learned from being in the right family or being in some sort of small place, or, you know, expatriates place where people are all from the same part and somebody's playing and you pick this stuff up before you ever try to even play it on an instrument. And then we're dealing with this thing of it being in the diaspora, and this thing of it being with its own kind of rule systems that kind of go hand in hand with like playing Irish music in America, but also are really from a different place. So some of those things maybe aren't even appropriate. I just happen to be of a generation where I've learned them from immigrants. But as it moves forward, and I don't know what's appropriate, but I do talk about tapping your feet or whooping, or, you know, how to build excitement, or what we're listening for, or what qualifies as good, or, you know, all those kinds of things. And Zoom is actually okay in that kind of teaching, because you can reference videos on YouTube, and you can, you know, solo up people and have them play, and you can pin videos so people can see responses and things that you're doing to sort of elicit this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's cool. And what are your favorite tunes to play? Like, what are some of your favorite tunes?
I like One of the things that I've always gravitated towards in the Irish stuff, like everyone, you spend a lot of time learning how to play reels, because the reels are the fast ones. The reels are the ones that are sort of the most demanding, and they require lots of these small little actions and movements on your left hand, and the pulse and the velocity and all this stuff from your bow. Hold on, I should do it like that. Wow. Yeah. But what I really like to play are and what I think actually crowds actually really, and people like in situations, live situations, actually enjoy jigs more. I think the jig thing makes more sense to people. It's an identifiable beat. If you're not particularly musical, or if all these Irish tunes sound the same, which they kind of do a lot of times, the jig thing sort of makes sense. And there's things in jigs. There's that kind of heavy metal sort of jig, and there's like this thing of 1 2 3 1 2 3 thing sort of suits people. I also really like playing polkas and slides from Slieve Lucre, which is this area in Ireland that sort of encompasses these counties, Cork, Kerry, and Limerick. So it's sort of like a southwestern sort of thing that was pretty much unknown because it wasn't really recorded in America like a lot of the other stuff was in the 1920s. And so until the chieftains and just sort of closer connection and better roads and better communication, it was really a style that was kind of like isolated. And so I really like that stuff quite a bit.
Very, very cool. Awesome. And then, one last, what would you, what do you kind of see? I mean, do you think Zoom or the things that you've had to deal with in this last year, technologically speaking or whatever, do you think that is going to continue in with the Irish community? Obviously on a teaching level, I'm sure in some capacity, right? But
yeah, I'm really curious to see how the Chicago public schools handle having virtual kids and having in-person kids, and if it's effective, because definitely people are going to want to go back to teaching to teaching in person, but it would be great to be able to do sort of a hybrid rather than having to split it. Obviously you can split it and say but have a thing where you're teaching live, but also there's a Zoom thing and you're kind of doing it to both people. And I don't know how that's going to work, but I hope it does. And I'm going to sort of shoot for trying to learn enough about how to anticipate it and understand this, so I can sort of manage that when it does change. I mean, I've got students now, like I do actually co-teaching on Zoom, and I do a Wednesday night sort of intermediate through advanced class, 2-hour Zoom class with a teacher who's actually based in Bloomington, Indiana, a flute whistle guru named Gray Larson. And we take turns talking. Yeah. But we've got students from all over the world. We've got students from Brazil and Mexico and West Coast, East Coast. I don't want to lose that. This was a class that I'd done for years at like Mrs. Murphy and Sons on Lincoln Avenue and Irving Park. I don't want to lose all the students. We're actually getting into to some really cool stuff, and we've been doing it since together, myself and Gray, since early July. So we've got a nice framework. It's chugging along. There's 29 people in this class.
Nice.
So I don't know I would like to preserve those things. It's cool that we can interact with each other and co-teach from different parts of the world. In my school, the woman who's starting all the beginners off now is based in New Hampshire. So how do we do that? I guess we just think of this as this is one of the modalities or something like this going forward. We do this also. We do some in person, but if you want this, you do that, and everyone's used to it now. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah. And speaking of that, could you tell us, so just kind of throwing this up here for anybody at home who's interested,
Sure.
Can you tell us more about the kinds of things that y'all are doing at the Irish Music School? I know I had wanted to take tin whistle lessons, and then it just wasn't working out. So after I'm done with my thing in Madison, I think maybe I'll try to pick them up again. But tell us what y'all are doing.
Well, all three of you guys are welcome to come and check out a Wednesday class. And just to sort of see, some of it's high level, and we're doing group classes. We're doing kind of these sort of ensemble things with tweens, kind of We're doing beginning stuff. So like in this kid class, it's like 12 to it's like 11 to 17 in this kind. It's a huge range, but there's fiddles, tin whistles, and like button accordions. So we're doing that kind of stuff. We're doing lots of one-on-one instruction of all sorts of different levels, ranging from like 4 or 5 through senior citizens. We're doing group things where we talk about what it actually is involved in playing Irish music. So we're learning tunes, but we're also analyzing and this is going to sound a little more serious than it actually is, but we actually like this class I was talking about with Gray Larson, where we often will take a recording, because there was a kind of class, like there was a huge renaissance and explosion of great records that are still kind of referenced to in the late 1970s. So we might take a track from a record played by a tin whistle player or a flute player or a fiddler. And this class is mixed up with all kinds of different instruments. So we try to show people how to listen and learn by ear, but also hear the way ornaments intersect and stuff. Because you have to remember that in Irish music, there was an uilleann pipe tradition, and then everyone else tried to imitate the uilleann pipes because the music was played for people dancing. So there isn't separate threads like there would be in classical music. Like here's the violins, here are the violas. You can't play the same thing because they're pitched differently and blah, blah. So violas do this role and flutes do this role, unless it's a flute-centric thing. And then the flutes, and it's like in this Irish music, everyone plays the melody, and they added guitars and bouzoukis and pianos in the 20th century to sort of accompany. But the stuff wasn't built around initially chords or anything. So everyone was trying to learn this melody. And if you played flute and it went below the note, you just hopped up an octave and you did all these things to sort of try to match stuff. And you do these ornaments based upon what uilleann pipes is the pipes that it's the Irish bagpipe where it's a bellows based pipe.
Oh yeah, those are the smaller.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a student who's interested in. I'll have to shoot you an email because they're.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
who's interested in taking a class.
So we're doing lots of things like that. A lot of it's about trying to become virtuosic listeners, basically. Because if you're at any facility at all in reading music, you could read these Irish tunes easily. I mean, on the violin, they're never above B. You never go into third position. I mean, it's dead easy. It's all first position stuff. So it's like, well, what is the magic there? The magic is not in the notes. You have to get the magic through hearing and absorbing and playing along with recordings and playing out with actual people and all that kind of stuff. Other than that, you just saw like a really good classical player who's playing beneath their level.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, you could do Strauss and Wagner, and here's this. I can do that. It's just a fiddle tune, and then it immediately puts it in that kind of like, well, vernacular sucks, and formal is best because we have doctorates and all this stuff, and of course we can do that. And then yeah.
I mean,
but they can't.
They can't, right?
Yeah,
unless you do this. Yeah, unless you do the same thing where you absorb it.
Yeah, it's just a different type of virtuosity. Getting that style.
It's a different type of virtuosity. Yeah. Where because it is vernacular. Not that there's not high levels in the vernacular. We don't care about each note so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we don't form on the violin, right? You spend so much time on each note, each thing, and then it's like that, and then the dominance of down bow, and in fiddling, up bow is really important for not just sweeps and connecting, but a lot of the pulsing and stuff you're doing with up bow. So that means you have to change the bow hold, and you have to do different things to get it in there. It's not we're always going back to down. Always back to down, like
right. Yeah, and I would say too, and especially in the bluegrass world, well, folk worlds in general, like slurring has a very different function too, right?
Yes.
Slurring classical, is to make it sound legato and smooth, but in folk music, it's to give accent and to give another rhythm on top of things. So it's totally.
And it takes string crossing and make it into things that suit the dancing or whatever. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So. That's very cool. Well, I know we're getting on the top of the hour here. Is there anything you would like to leave our viewers with, as far as like they can, check out irishmusicschool.org?
Yeah, drop me info@irishmusicschool.org is a great way to reach out to us if you're interested. And if you guys want to just come and check out that Wednesday thing, just with your cameras off and just sort of see, it might explain better what we're doing, which is a whole combination of we're playing tunes and we're also talking about tunes and we're talking about and then so it's 2 hours long. So it starts off with just some playing of things that we've done over the last bunch of months and lots of me encouraging people to play on things they don't know. And then at some point we split up into breakout rooms. And then so I'll take the fiddles and the concertinas and banjo, and then Gray will take, the harmonica, the 10 whistle flute people and something else. And then we'll go disappear in Zoom land for a half an hour and we'll come back and
Cool. Well,
yeah,
Very nice.
It'd be fun to collaborate more. We did a couple things on stage at Martyrs.
Yeah.
Like 4 years ago now or something.
Yeah,
but
right. That was
yeah.
Martyrs was good times for sure. Yeah. And that audience was not quiet. That was great. And
Yeah.
we were buying us drinks and whatever. And they were definitely, hooting and hollering for sure.
Yeah, let's stay in touch more, you guys. It was fun. This was fun.
Yeah, this was
Awesome.
fun. Thanks for joining us, Seán. It's always a pleasure to see you. I'm glad that we were able to make up for our yearly visit in this way, and thanks again for hopping on Zoom land with us.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks very much.
Excellent.
Yeah,
And everybody, we're here most Fridays at noon. Again, thanks so much, Seán, for joining us, and we'll be back next week. And we'll have a special thing next Saturday as well, which we'll throw out there. But stay safe, and we'll see you all next week.
Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail. Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail.